Okay, welcome to the second part of our presentation. And what would you expect from a communication class? Our self arises in communication with others. We've seen that our understanding of who we are is shaped by the perspectives of particular others in the society in which we live. But how do we learn those perspectives? How are they imparted to us? We learn them in the process of communicating with others, both individuals who matter to us, particular others, family, friends, the people that we're close with, and society as a whole, which is called the generalized other. You might, in terms of the generalized other, you might recall from the previous presentation, part one of this presentation talked about race and gender and sexual orientation. Certainly society has ideas about these things, and they can create, of course, stereotypes, but they certainly contribute to one's sense of self. Just bear with me one second here. Let's talk about a few of these. How our communication creates our sense of self. One way is what's called reflected appraisal. Now, this is our perception, our individual perception of how others see us. So it's internal, but it's our perception how others may see us, and that certainly contributes to our sense of self. There's also direct definitions that we call upon as well. Let's think of some of the roles that we play and how those are defined by society, whether it's athlete, chemist, poet, or again, some of the definitions of some of the broader categories that we belong to as well. And there's definitions that provide who that person is, and we may draw on that for our own sense of self. We also absolutely, I don't think any of us would deny this, that we use social comparison to create our sense of selves. We look at others, people in our family, our friends, the people we work with, our teammates, etc. And it's just kind of inevitable that we look to others to form a sense of our own selves. Okay, and that certainly can be positive, but there can be negative ramifications to that as well when we compare ourselves to others and feel we don't quite live up to what these other folks might portray. And then there's something called self-disclosure, and that brings us to what's called a Johari window. This will help us understand relationship to others themselves. It's a model that describes different kinds of knowledge and perceptions that are related to self-concept and personal growth. And we will take a look at what I think it would be helpful just to see what that looks like in this particular graphic here. As you can see, there are different areas. There are what's called the open area, blind area, and hidden area, and then the unknown area. And also along the axes you see information that's known to yourself, unknown to yourself, known to others, and unknown to others. So the open area, so the top left pane, is the open or free area, which contains information that is both known to ourselves and to others. It's your name, your major, your tastes in music are probably information that you share easily with others. So this is just out in the open. And there's what's called the blind area. The blind area contains perceptions of us that others have, but we don't. Okay, right? Not everybody, we're not privy to others' perceptions completely. We can attempt to divine what that might be, but and they could share it with us, but oftentimes it's not information we have. For example, others may perceive us as leaders, even though we don't see ourselves that way. Coworkers and supervisors may recognize strengths, weaknesses, and potentials of which we are unaware. The hidden area contains information that we have about ourselves, but choose not to reveal to others. So we have the blind area and we have the hidden area, stuff that we can't see, and also stuff that we don't share with others. You might not tell most people about your vulnerabilities or traumas you've experienced. You might feel sincere self-doubts when interviewing for a job, and part of that is we just don't want to share that information. Some of it is just because we want to maintain a sense of privacy. Then we have what's called the unknown area. The unknown area is made up of information about ourselves that neither we or others know. The unknown area is the most difficult to understand because, as the area's name implies, it contains information that is not known. Now, unfortunately, this particular example is relevant now because a lot of people are experiencing this because of the coronavirus situation. We cannot know how we will handle a job layoff unless we experience one. We cannot know if we're good at bridge, which is a card game, until we try playing it. Okay, so it's just things that are untapped and that we don't know about yet until we confront a situation where we can experience it, and then it'll become known. So, I have personally, I've been laid off once. A layoff is typically, and that's what's happening to a lot of people, that it has nothing to do with individual performance. It's just a financial decision. And I think this is a good example because people really react differently to that. Obviously, getting laid off from a job can be extremely stressful for a lot of people. When it happened to me, I was married, we were 2 income earners, no kids, and I didn't take it personally, and my reaction was that I'm not going to take it personally. There's nothing I could do. Actually, it happened right after 9/11. So similar in some ways to what we're going through now, kind of out of our control. So it wasn't a huge deal for me. So I learned that about myself. I don't want to go through it again, I can tell you that. I'd rather not, but I know that the first time that it happened in my professional experience, I was able to handle it pretty well. Let's go on to chapter 10, and I'm not going to, again, I wish we had more time to discuss this. Even we are developing personal relationships. A little harder now that we're separated, but hopefully we can continue that on as teacher and student when hopefully we all return in the fall. That's my hope, that we can get through this and things will be back to semi-normal situation in the fall. Personal relationship is a voluntary commitment between irreplaceable individuals who are influenced by rules, relationship dialectics, and surrounding contexts. This definition highlights important features that distinguish personal relationships from other kinds of human connections. Each relationship's unique. We're talking about relationships where the commitment's voluntary. There's rules that govern all relationships. We're going to talk about something called dialectics. And actually, the dialectics are just listed here. They're what's called autonomy and connection, novelty and predictability, openness and closedness. Those three basically, in each relationship, whether it's just a friendship or a work relationship or a romantic relationship especially, people differ, individuals differ. Some people like more autonomy and freedom. Some people like close connection. These aren't binary, meaning people aren't just one over to one side, but there's tendencies. For example, some people might prefer more novelty or newness or excitement or new things in a relationship as opposed to predictability, and some want it just to be more predictable altogether, and openness and closedness. Some people like to be more private in their relationships. Other people want it to be more open. Big point in this unit is that relationships go through an evolution. There's different kinds of relationships. There's friendships. There's romantic relationships. I would ask you about the matching hypothesis, and just for you to think about. This is something it can apply to friendships and romantic relationships. Do you agree that opposites attract? And then there are stages. Basically, the stages of relationships are coming together and coming apart. We're not going to do this activity. There's going to be some other activities, and we will cover those. And then there's styles of love. Go ahead and refer to this in the text. There are several different styles of loving. Eros is probably the one that we see the most in popular culture, and passion, intensity, etc. But there's many other forms too. The author offers some guides to personal relationships, handling distance, having equity and equality in relationships, discouraging, of course, any kind of partner violence, which can be a real problem in our society, and being safe in our intimate relationships. I think that the first two we're dealing with directly now. We're apart, and you're apart from a lot of your other personal connections, and many of you are in a tighter situation with your families. So it's something that we're all negotiating right at this moment. We're going to do some activities this week. I'm going to post those in the course web. So more details on those coming up. One is called Seeing Them and You. It's just how the different people in your lives make up who you are, make up how you have a sense of your own self. And then we're going to do another activity, which is called the Friendship Manual. Finally, let's just continue to stay in touch. Many of you have been emailing me quite a bit. Great. It's a simple form of communication. You can text me and call me too. I've gotten that. No problem. Please do that, especially when there's a need for it, an immediate need. I gave out my cell number at the beginning of the course, and it stands as much as ever now. That please use that to communicate with me. And if you're one of the few people still around, I'm in the office pretty much every day, and I can meet by appointment. Nolan 213. I can use Google Meets for individual meetings, and I did want to, if you haven't gotten information about this already, what I'd like to do on a trial manner is do one meeting a week on Google Meets, just for a 15-20 minute, basically just a Q&A session. We're going to do those at Wednesdays at 10, 11, and 1 p.m. You can go to the session that syncs up with what would have been our regular class or not. Those are going to be open. We're not going to have specific agendas. We'll just talk about the things that are coming up and the things that you have to do for class. We'll just shoot the breeze if you want to. Again, those are going to be, you'll get more details on those soon. Wednesdays at 10, 11, and 1, and those aren't going to be required. Just like attending class is not required, it's just strongly encouraged. Okay, I hope you are all well, and we'll talk again soon.